we're going to look at filleting curves. The word filleting is nothing more than a fancy way of saying applying a radius to a curve. If you'd like to follow along, I'm going to be working on the Fillet Curves file in your Chapter 5 Working Files menu. You'll find the Fillet Curve command under the Curve menu, Fillet Curves. So let's take a moment just to look at our command line. You can see we have radius, so we can adjust the radius on the fly. We can also join these commands with the option of trimming the curve, which is by default set to yes. And then extends arc by is the type of curve or the type of radius we're going to be making. I'll go ahead and type 2 to change that radius to a 2. And then what you do is click on the two curves that you'd like to fillet. So I click on this curve and then this curve. You can see it applies a fillet. Now in this case, the fillet is drawn in black because the default layer is black and it's the current layer. So anything that is created will be drawn automatically on whatever the current layer is, in this case, the default layer. Let me go ahead and undo that, make a couple of changes. So in addition to finding Fillet Curve under the Curve menu, Fillet Curves, we can also find it right here on the toolbar, and we can just go ahead and click right on that icon, and it applies the command. So the radius remembers its last setting, which was 2 millimeters. I'll go ahead and make that a little bit larger. I'll just type a 5. And this time for join, I'm just going to click on that, and it now says yes. So this time when I click on the curves, you can see they're still drawn in red. So what it's done is join the two curves together with a 5 millimeter radius. The curves don't actually have to be touching for this command to work. Let me go ahead and hit the space bar to apply this command again. And I'll click on this curve and then this curve. And you can see it goes ahead and adds in the curve between these objects. Let me undo that. The fillet command is also a nice quick way of getting two objects to touch one another if they're not already touching. Let me show you what I mean by this. Let me just apply this command. Right now the radius is set to 5, but if I type 0 and hit enter, watch what happens when I touch these curves. This one and this one. And you can see it's drawn a 90-degree angle. What it's really done is try to draw a fillet with a 0-degree radius. So there's no third curve added in there. It just pulls these lines together. And it's kind of a nice, handy, fast way to get corners to come together. We can, of course, use a fillet on more complex curves, such as we have here. So let me click on this, select the fillet again. Radius is set to 0, so let me show you what happens on something like this when you do that. That just gives you a nice corner. You do have to be careful what side of the curve you're clicking on. So if I apply this curve and click out here, you can see it trims away all the curve on the opposite side of where the lines are touching. I'll undo that. Reapply the command. This time rather than 0, I'll just type a 3 and click here and then here. And just so we're clear, let me just click on join so it says no. Change the fillet to 2. Click here and here. You can see it's added a 2 millimeter fillet, but it has not joined them this time. I'll apply the command join yes for radius. Let's put something a little larger in there. Let's try a 10 and see if that works. I can always come back and add a different radius in here. So I can click on this line and this line. Now add a 10 millimeter radius where before we had a 3 millimeter radius. Where this is currently a 0-degree radius or a hard corner, I can apply a different radius to this now. So you can kind of always continue to edit. The one thing you can't do is go back. You couldn't put a 2 millimeter radius in between these curves. Once you've gone to a much larger radius, you can't come back to a smaller radius. So the fillet curve command is great if we want to put fillets on a lot of different things, especially if we want to have different size fillets on all these corners. But what happens if we have a lot of fillets to apply? Let's say I want to put a 3 millimeter fillet on all of these. I've got to keep applying this command again. Let me undo that. So there's a couple of ways to approach this. One, you can see when I hover my mouse over the fillet curve command, if I right click, it says fillet curves repeat. So that knows I'm going to do more than one. So I can just kind of keep clicking so I don't have to reapply the command every time. I do have to tell it which curves I want the fillet applied to. So that speeds things up dramatically. But there's a faster way if we're going to apply the exact same fillet to all of the corners. I can just select the object, and under Curve menu, I can select Fillet Corners, or under the Curve toolbar, I can select the Curve Corner icon. And now it's asking for a fillet radius, and I just hit Enter. And it automatically applies those to all of the corners at once with one command. So that can speed things up pretty dramatically if you have a lot of radiuses that are going to get the same fillet. And that concludes our look at the Fillet Corner command.